We see you, Muslims. We know what you're up to. You're all about taking over the country. Don't worry, there's plenty that will love the opportunity to take you off the face of the earth. You will not live much longer.
Hey, remember that? That was Representative Ilhan Omar playing a voicemail that she'd gotten. A representative, one of the sorts of violent conspiratorial death threats that she unfortunately has faced since becoming a public figure and will likely face for the rest of her life, which, God willing, will be very long. But she is far from the only lawmaker to receive those sorts of threats. They're common and far more common than they used to be. Take a look at some of these numbers. Last year, more than 450 federal judges were targeted with threats. I didn't even know there were 450 federal judges and they faced threats. That is a 150% increase from just 5 years ago. The US Capitol Police investigated more than 8,000 threats to members of Congress last year, up more than 50% from 2018, so judges getting it particularly hard. The agency recently added 3 full-time prosecutors to handle the volume. And I tried to think of what it could be that is leading more people to want to target and threaten judges. And I just haven't been able to come up with anything. Nothing that's normalized focusing on DAs and judges and spinning conspiratorial theories about them. And I just haven't come up with anything, but I'm gonna keep working on it. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the Damage Report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you. For local officials, more than 80% of them say that they've been either threatened or harassed. That's according to a survey from 2021 by the National League of Cities. And here's an example of one of the threats, how it comes. This is not for a Democrat, by the way. This is for a Republican, Fred Upton, who decided to vote to impeach Trump after the insurrection. He got a voicemail saying, "I hope you die. I hope everybody in your blanked family dies." He received so many threats that he asked the local police to set up motion-activated cameras outside his home in Michigan. He installed panic buttons in his district offices and stopped notifying the public in advance of his speaking engagements. He also added a second exit door to his house office in Washington in case he or his staff needed to escape from an intruder. And there is no ambiguity about who the threats are coming from, okay? They were coming to him, a Republican, after he turned and betrayed Donald Trump. And we know not all of the threats in American politics come from right wingers, not all of them come from conservatives or anything like that. But we know they are very highly overrepresented. And we know that those sorts of threats have become incredibly normalized from prominent right-wing politicians, as well as prominent members of right-wing media. Danielle, I've thrown a lot of things out there. What do you make of all this?
I mean, I make from it that good people are no longer going to run for office. Good people are not going to want to serve public office because it's dangerous. It has become one of the most dangerous professions. And again, I fault mainstream media for not connecting the dots for people here. You have this rise of 150% in violence towards judges from 5 years, over the last 5 years, and we don't say to ourselves, I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that Donald Trump and all of his MAGA supporters refer to DEAs and judges as crooked, as politically motivated, as this, that, and the other thing. And mind you, we have seen judges and their families be attacked and killed, right? By those that are crazy. And so we know that Donald Trump and his followers amping up their rhetoric, those stooges that all dressed in the same outfit in front of the courthouse, talking bad about Judge Merchant and all of these things, like, it's dangerous. And it's up to us to connect the dots that this is not just rhetoric. It actually will turn into violence. And is that all we're waiting for?
Yeah, 100%. Like you pointed out, the normalization of just any judge who even maybe will rule against a member of the MAGA movement is obviously suspect. Doesn't matter. They could be literally Republicans. Doesn't matter. They have a second, twice removed auntie's roommate's brother or whatever that once donated to Howard Dean. Well, that's enough. Hound them out of public life. And then you have Donald Trump, who, as you alluded to earlier in the show, is literally saying, you know what? If they steal it again, maybe there's violence. Who knows? Stand back and stand by. And then you even have more explicit, like I keep going on about this and I feel like I have to because nobody else talks about it. But Tom Cotton on live TV told people to kill protesters if they get in their way. It is so normalized now. I remember years ago, during the rise of the squad, I was so worried that they would face violence in addition to threats. And thankfully, none of them have been killed, knock on, acrylic desk or whatever. But I said at that time that if it did happen, if there was like a mass shooting of politicians or whatever, if some sort of instance of violence happened, that the right-wing media would not belatedly realize that a line had been crossed and we need to back off, that they would be fine with it. They would apologize for it. And we have not had exactly what I sketched out as a hypothetical, but bear in mind, we've had a good test run of it. When a deranged right-winger tried to kidnap Nancy Pelosi and instead nearly murdered her husband, they still joke about that to this day. And so I don't even want to put it out into the universe. But if Representative Omar was shot by a right-winger and tragically passed, do you know for sure that Jesse Waters wouldn't make a joke about it? Do you know for sure that Don Jr. wouldn't post on Instagram about it laughing? Does anyone know that? If you know that, I love your optimism for the future. I don't share it. I just can't bring myself to that, but I don't have the confidence that you do. And it's just the normalization of all this. I know politics can be cyclical. I really hope that we can come back from the precarious position on the ledge that we're in right now. I hope that we see that the threats have gone down by 150% over 4 years at some point. But it's definitely going to require Donald Trump leaving office, shuffling off his mortal coil. As at this point, that's the only thing that I think could start that process. Any final thoughts on this before I move on?
No, the same. I think that the only way that we see any type of shift or change, and I won't even say back to normal because I don't ever think that we will get there, is in fact if Donald Trump is not reelected in November. And then, like you said, we see the rest of these court cases pick up where they have been stuffed in the closet. If Donald Trump goes away, I don't think that Trumpism goes away, but I think that people will be less likely to act on their worst impulses, right? Because they'll know that there is some type of accountability that is going to be there. And this macho man that they've been holding up has actually fallen, right? That is what is important here. And that's what we need to see. Otherwise, my fear, John, is that this gets worse than it is right now.
Yep. And like I said yesterday on the show, to the Democrats, do literally whatever is within your power to improve people's economic standing, their ability to buy a home, their ability to retire, their lessen their fear of the future. You are never going to get rid of these worst impulses, these primal behaviors, but they are more common when people are terrified. And they're always going to be terrified with Fox News. But if you can reassure them about the economy, about the solvency of Social Security, about those sorts of things, that's the best thing you can do to ward this off, because the right is always going to try to weaponize this. This is all they have. So we have to be as good as possible. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.